Welcome back, everybody. We're doing a welcome back because we had cut the clip there as we set up a video. Carinder is sharing the Happy Neighborhood Project, and I'm going to do a little screen share so you can see this video that he just provided me by Facebook Messenger chat. And I've got it on my other screen here. So there we are. Here's the video. Oh, here, let me, I'm going to do that over, folks, because I need to select share sounds or we are not hearing what Carinder had prepared. There we go.
ANP Royal, so this is the sponsor where HMP, so if you want to look this, please go to HMP or put in the name, and if you are into your easily notification free project, then you can see the directory and see who's on there. Recently, you can also follow my LinkedIn, our story, our story, event, you can see all the events and you can interact with them, all of them, and especially this one, the worldwide one, unlock the happiness. And then also on that, you can join the free class here, which is another notification, and then the big class, which is pay your ticket, and then you boot everything on there, like PM later, and you can move all that. And then there's how you can become a member, or if you're a member, you can log in, and this is your co-op member, you get all the points on here. This is your dashboard, by the way, so you get all the point breakdown. So become a member, refer to a kind of like AMP member, you can become a partner, like be a co-host, invite people for the first time, attend the AMP event, and recently, I don't know, at some point is here, I don't know what about any when I'm learning, and this is for this, because certain people, like, now you have to become a certified member, and these are the main things that you can go to, and you'll find photos is when you can invite BNP and you, and then you're winning 1 year to it. So that is that. And yeah, I just like to say happy neighborhood Edwin for this. I know you listen to the podcast. So Edwin, happy neighborhood. Thank you very much for sponsoring my show and check out the neighbor happy neighborhood. Thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you. It's a off now. Uh, so that was the happy neighbor project we want to thank them for sponsoring our show. And me and her are on there. So if you want to check it out, you're welcome to. And if you want to apply for the photo, so HMP, Happiness Relevant Project.com. Is that right, Or is it not com.uk? Is it not com?
Yeah, happyneighborhoodproject.com. And then for people using smartphones and want less characters, hmpabc.com goes to short link forwards to happyneighborhoodproject.com. So both work for the same thing.
Yeah, I would like a when morning like work. Now, what shall I talk about? That isn't anything. Um, you got any ideas for what to talk about? We talk about like isn't anything like. We talk about uh,
Well, the format I tend to follow to kind of get some brainstorming going is you heard me say this with Denise. She had me allude to it. I call it the 6x7. So we're looking at, you heard me speaking to it right here at the beginning of the show in the first segment. You got faith life, service life, lifelong learning, the government agency realm, our profession, occupation, vocation, work, business. That aspect is the fifth aspect. And then all the fun things in life is the sixth aspect there. Sports, hobbies, pastime, leisure activities, travel, therapeutic recreation, things like this. And then with that in mind, sort of to open up the disability aspect, the seven, the lucky seven, I used as a conversation starter, and some in the disability community are not represented in this, because I could add like people who are, who have chemical sensitivity, um, those who have sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, EMF waves and so forth, electromagnetic waves. Some people are sensitive to that. So like with our Wi-Fi's and stuff like that, some people are sensitive to it and don't like to be at a place where all these remote devices and remote connections are in use. But I typically, the seven are people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, people who are deaf or hard of hearing, people who are blind or visually impaired, people with
yeah,
physical disabilities, those that have a mental health diagnosis, people with a goal of substance use reduction, and people living in chronic pain. So the six pockets of life with the seven demographics, the 6x7, I use to have as a conversation starter and to help brainstorming to kind of get us unstuck, because there's so much to talk about. It's
mm,
overwhelming. And yeah, to your point, Carinder, we got to pick something. And I do know today is the Super Bowl. Are you a Super Bowl football fan or
yeah,
American football?
yeah. So here
So
is Super Bowl and I can't wait to watch it. So I am a super fan of it. I hope kind of like will win. But yeah, I understand what like deaf people and blind people they this is what like you not understand, right? These governments say that they want to shut down the social care, right? Why? Why? Why do you want to shut down the social care when we actually need it and we need the opportunity for women who or men who like have like better service, like better rights for disability. And that life conflict cannot understand me. But what I'm saying is like that if men and women are equal, there should not be any else in it. Like everyone should be equal. What do you think, that?
well, what I can build off of that, Carinder, is that the disability community taught me about intersectionality. So here in the States, in the USA, we have advocates talking about, like we can hear from a woman who is a lesbian, who is a person of color, who has a disability, and how our American culture is stacked up against her. Because having not just a characteristic of a disability, or I'm sorry, a minority identity, that a lady like that could identify with multiple minority groups and being subject to any one of the handful of parts of her identification with how she identifies. Everyone is unfortunately, not by the way the universe or just the way life should work, but by the way we here in the United States conduct ourselves with a lot of people. I mean, it's not a stereotype of the hundreds of millions of people in the US, but it's not much time in between someone in that circumstance or in that identity to be subject to discrimination, segregation, cancel culture. The idea of outright being ostracized from groups because these demographics in many places are not welcome, unfortunately, with too many places here in the US. And we know that there's some resemblance to that other places. I take a guess that in London there are some concerns with that, but I guess I'll lean on you to be more familiar with your home city, London there. But that intersectionality is a real powerful topic where we can have different minority groups working together because each of them have a concern with the alternative demographic. So like if you look at me, a white male, without a disability, I can recognize how I have privilege that isn't available to people with disabilities, and in many cases people with disabilities with other identities, which further create a discrimination. So is that kind of what you're speaking to, Carinder? Am I in the right track?
Yeah. So you think like so when you set up LGBT or not, you think like the combination with disabilities, I mean there is South Africa, there's the England Africa, there's America Africa, there's all over the world that are Africa, but you think the Prime Minister President you care about disability. You think that the Parliament or the politicians care about disability.
So you're talking about what happens to somebody with a disability in Parliament? You're
Yeah,
saying that,
yeah,
yeah, we experience that here in the state of Wisconsin, USA, too, with our state capital. We have an assembly person who has a disability, and in terms of having meeting accommodations, the assembly does not provide accommodations for this assembly person, like say to have a conference call rather than being required to be in person in a chambers that is not accessible. So yeah, but in any case, I don't know the entirety of what you're speaking to. I'm not completely familiar with Parliament. I mean, in terms of news and what the story is all about, but I can only imagine. Are you speaking to that that his work in parliament is more challenged than his counterparts that don't have a disability? Is that what's happening?
Like, you think, like, some people take advantage of you because you're disabled. You think people take, like, a bit out of you.
So when we're talking about having a position in parliament, what this does then, I guess I'm saying this to see if you agree. Are we saying that this is kind of a double whammy, that, or, a two-part problem? Because first of all, you have somebody in parliament, which should, someone is in parliament with a disability, which should be an excellent thing. It should be there to promote others with disabilities to also find their position in parliament. But because of what
Yeah,
you're saying, it becomes discouraging. People watch the news and see what's being said by people in England, and you're saying that it pushes people to think about about wanting to be in parliament if they are a person with a disability. It's
yeah,
discouraging.
yeah. So what's your thought on it?
I mean, I would say that it's a an issue of the residents of England, the citizen, the people of England, that it takes driving a narrative and getting enough noise and conversation out there that the other members of parliament should hold that member of parliament with a disability in higher regard. If it's not spoken to, and if it doesn't have a lot of typed out communication, and if there's not a lot of noise all around England, basically the residents and citizens of England are condoning it. you know so I would say, if this is something that is undesirable, um the people of England should make some noise, and let the government know, let parliament know that this is unacceptable, and give the member of parliament with a disability their due respect.
We have 2 more minutes until we end. So, you think like the disability, people who don't have any disability, you feel like they take advantage of people who have disability. So, like, if you're in the wheelchair, right? I'm in the wheel, but if you're in the wheelchair, the people take a mick out of you when you are in the wheelchair.
Well, I think it's human nature to try to understand things. I think people are naturally inquisitive, and when we're unfamiliar, it's really a survival instinct, because in preserving our life, if there's a threat, not to say people with disabilities are a threat, but just to
Mm.
talk about the human mind and the natural reaction of a person, is, it's kind of why we send people to outer space. We send people to outer space because we're curious. There are unknowns out there on different planets, and on the moon, and whatever, that we yearn to know. And so that's what's
Mm.
happening when when the unfamiliarity between people with disabilities and people that don't have a disability, it's a relationship. And
Mm.
so we have a lot of misunderstanding. And I can speak to this because I'm a person that might be thought of as one that would have all the understanding needed, which I guess in some sense is true. But I guess just the way from my decisions and how I reacted and so forth. I'm 50 years old. And so my story is that, you know, I like to invite people to take a look at my life from when I was born into this world to when I was 40, and then looking at from when I turned 40 to, the time now and how things were different. And, a lot of it was set in motion to change because I met somebody with a disability about 15 years ago. And, and he's a self-advocate, public speaker, so outspoken. He's been on the news, and, so he ended up being a great person for me to understand my woes. And, when we were on the phone once, I was introducing him to somebody through my phone, not a video phone or anything like that. It was just a voice call. And so we talked to a contact of mine, and I had the inclination to point out, based on what we were talking about, I felt that my friend's physical disability came into play. But what I said was, just so you know, my friend is wheelchair bound. So here I had a conversation introducing my friend as wheelchair bound. And so we had the conversation. It was what it was. And then after that phone call, my friend did a friendly thing and just gave me advice and then insight. And he shared of himself and said, Kurt, just so you know, I don't really take on the description of wheelchair bound, because to me, this chair does not bound. I'm not bound to this wheelchair, and it's not restricting me. He's like, I consider this wheelchair a medical device, and it's very empowering. It gives me freedom, because without this chair, there's so much each day that I would not be able to do if I didn't have this chair. So I'm freed by this chair. And he said, well, that being said, he's like, he does enjoy the time. Like when he sleeps on a bed. So, the wheelchair is empty. He's not on the chair when he sleeps. And then in terms of something we did together, we ended up water skiing together. But to that topic, it's like, obviously he's not going to water ski on his chair. So there's so much a person who is a wheelchair user. See, that's what he taught me. He had to teach me to say, hello, this is my friend. He is, if I want to say anything, if there's something about like he needs the appropriate vehicle or something where I need to say that would be that he is a wheelchair user. So Carinder hopped off. So we're going to leave that as the last thought. And I'm just going to stand by to see if we're going to do a third segment, or if that is conclusion for this, the Impact Show by Carinder. Again, I'm Kurt Roska with the Disability Channel. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, follow-ups to what Carinder and I were talking to, feel free to give me a call. Stateside in the United States of America, the +1 262-372-1754, or abilitymke@gmail.com. The Disability Channel can be found at thedisabilitychannel.ca, and 222 to save 22 can be found at 2-22 to save 22.com. HMP is hmpabc.com. And then go ahead and Google World of Ability Podcasts. So that'll do it for today. Thanks for joining the Impact Show by Carinder. And so I'll call that a conclusion. If we come up with a third segment, we'll call that a bonus. Otherwise, tune in on another day. And thanks for being in our audience. Definitely give us a reaction, give us comments. The reaction of like, love, and wow, and whatever your reaction is through the emoticons, that would be great. And definitely share this with your contacts, share widely on social media. Thank you very much. Bye for now.